What's going on, YouTube? This is Squids. Figured we'd come back, start the 2024 season with a nice freaking comedy school romance-esque vibed anime, because those are like my favorite thing to do. And then on top of it, it's what y'all want. I mean, like, that's the thing I cover, and that's the thing that gets viewed. So, without further ado, let's talk about this show, because Hokkaido Gals Are Super Adorable was one that I really kind of wanted to cover, because like I said, it's like my forte. It's the thing I love. And then on top of it, it just looked absolutely adorable, especially considering the fact that, you got a nice blonde girl, as always. Very, very good start to the matter. But with Silverlink, it's a hit and miss, because sometimes Silverlink Studios does some really good stuff, and sometimes they don't do some good stuff. But however, I have not read this manga, and going into this first episode, my expectations are in the middle, because, don't set your bars high unless it's, like something for a fact should be great in all theories, because it can get destroyed. But I laughed so hard. I didn't expect it to be as ecchi as it is, and then on top of it, it just has all the keys and clicks to what I think is a great rom-com school anime. So let's talk about this episode, then we'll get more into it towards the end of this video. We start off with our main character, and he's just pretty much sitting in the car, and we learn that his name is Shiki, and Shiki's just chilling there, and he's in the taxi texting his dad away, just the usual things you do in the wintertime. He looks definitely like he's from the city, which we come to find out later he is, but he's got this nice jacket on and a scarf and a beret type of hat thing. And he has the taxi guy drop him off at this location, because he figures, being from Tokyo, everything's a little close and the next city shouldn't be too far over. So he gets out of the car and realizes that there's no cars around, and it's really quiet, and this isn't what he's used to. And within 5 minutes, not even maybe 5 seconds, he gets really cold and doesn't realize how cold it is there, because obviously there's no towers, buildings, and people everywhere. It's just straight, it's Hokkaido. I mean, it's not a huge city, so he's just getting straight to the point of freezing within seconds, right? And he comes to realize that the winters here are just absolutely insane, and he tries using his smartphone to get to look at maps, but he comes to learn that you can't use gloves with a cell phone, because it just doesn't work that well. And coming from somebody from the Midwest, I can relate to that. But within 2 seconds, he kind of just looks up, because he's trying to figure out how to get home, and his phone's going to die. So at this point, it's almost to the fact of I gotta figure something out, because if this dies, I'm screwed. And he ends up seeing this girl there, right? And she is this blonde girl, blue eyes, little rosy cheeks, little red nose, and cold ears. And instantly, just looking at her, just absolutely adorable. And he looks up and down and sees that she's not wearing anything by under her skirt, obviously leggings or something, or long socks, and she's just wearing this nice little tiny little jacket and tiny scarf. And he's over here in this jacket and a scarf and a hat, and he's just absolutely freezing to death. So you can see the comparison to somebody that's used to the cold versus somebody that's not used to the cold right off the bat. And I kind of relate to that, because you go outside in shorts and a t-shirt and 30-degree weather, while somebody in Florida or Texas or something would be absolutely freezing to death. So I can get that, and I can relate to that. But she kind of catches him, just kind of staring at her, and asks, if there's anything up, and he just kind of replies, and but he realizes and comes to the fact that he should probably ask this girl how to get to the house that he is staying at. So he talks to her, and she looks at the map and tells him, it's way the heck over that way. And while she's doing that, he's kind of just looking her over, and seeing how rosy her cheeks are and how cute she is. And while he sees that, he's still mesmerized just by the looks of her. And before he knows it, he's starting to walk away and head towards that direction to get to his house that his father and family moved to. But she calls him out and tells him, you know, like, I don't know why you're walking that way, because that's probably going to take you about 3 hours to get to your house. And I'm going to put this in the video, but he gets so shocked so many times in this episode that it's definitely going to be like a thing. I can already tell that's going to be the punch all the time. The fact that he's so degenerate and she's kind of degenerate, and like, but in the inside he's such a virgin still. It's absolutely a great dynamic. Nothing new to the table, but a great dynamic. And so she asks him, you know, if he wants to wait at the bus stop with her, because that's where she's, you know, getting on the bus, and that's going to take you to where you're going, because calling a taxi out here is pretty much pointless, because, well, they're in a small town and it'd probably take a half hour just for a taxi to get there. So, you know, he says yes, and you know she's you know, no big deal, and she asks where he's from, and he tells her, you know, obviously Tokyo, and that, you know, pretty much that she comes from the aspect of, you know, why'd you move out to the sticks? You probably think we're all weird, there's something to do here. And you know, he goes to the point of telling her that, you know, he finds it relaxing, and it doesn't really matter anyways, because he used to be bullied for being lame, and he didn't know what it was like to be popular in Tokyo, so he doesn't really care, probably doesn't miss it that much, you know what I mean? Maybe the city aspect, but not the people. I can relate to that as well. But you know, this whole time he's like saying this all in his head, right? And then, like, to the extent of the matter that, you know, as long as nobody knows who he is in Hokkaido, he could start new pretty much, right? And while he's trying to like do this whole mental game and thinking about this, she asks him how old he is, you know, and he's 16, same age as her, and they're gonna go to the same high school as well. And you can tell that she's like loving this, because she is peaking, like she is happy. And while they're waiting, and he doesn't even realize it, she gets her arm looped into his arm, so they're holding arms together, right? Just met minutes ago. And, you know, he kind of like freaks out about it for a minute, saying, you know, like, your arm's still around me. And she's like, you know, to the extent of like, well, I could stop, but why would I stop? Because it's, you know, it's so cold out and we're warm, you know? And he realizes, you know, that's not the problem whatsoever. The problem is that, you know, he's now touching her boobies, and that, of course, he's freaking out about it, you know, because he's a little degen, and it's just absolutely freaking great. But she kind of like gets on to him, because he's kind of being like this uptight type of person, and, you know, not necessarily uptight, it's just that's kind of the way he's coming off, is very like official, because like he's obviously never been with this kind of experience, had a girlfriend or anything of that matter, so he's just kind of being all a little nervous and everything. And within 10 seconds we get a huge degen scene where she sneezes, and you can see the snot coming out of her nose and under her fingers, and like she even like, ooh, you know, oh geez, my nose is running, like. And of course, he's sitting there, mind blown away, just gone with the wind. And of course, he has tissues in his backpack, so he pulls one out for her to blow her nose. And while she's doing that, he's sitting there, title drop right off the bat, wondering, you know, if all Hokkaido girls are like this. And he's in this dream mind, and she's trying to talk to him. So to get his attention, she pours snow down his shirt, which clearly gets his attention right off the bat, especially if he's already kind of a cold person sitting in this situation. And she really enjoys that, like, his reaction to the snow being poured down his shirt. And you can tell she's one of those people that definitely loves that kind of thing. She kind of reminds me a little bit of a mix of like Nagatoro, but at the same time somebody kind of cutesy, to the extent, I'm trying to think of a good example. Last season, the Blondie from that one other rom-com, kind of like a mix of those two. I'm trying to think of her name, but I can't. Luna. But I can't think of the series. Either or, reminds me kind of a mix of that. And so we get this like scene of her like crying from laughing, and it closes on, shows her eyelashes almost absolutely perfectly with the nice tint in the eyes and the tears coming down, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. And we get this still frame of him just taking in her beauty with the snow and everything in the background, and it just looks tight. And out loud, he says that she's pretty, and I don't think he meant to say that out loud because everything else has been in his head so far to this point. But she hears what he says, and she pretty much calls him out like saying that's not cool, because now she's blushing, covering her face, and she's totally accepting it. And before this whole like interaction can really get to another level, the bus shows up, and Shiki finally asks for her name. We find out that it's Fuyuki, and oh man, just absolutely adorable. And she's even got the nails and everything, and gives the peace sign and tells that, well, we'll see you at school because we're together in the school. What are the odds they're gonna be in the same class though, right? And she gets on the bus, and he's sitting there daydreaming, thinking about her already. Within, minutes of meeting her, he's already like obsessed with her. And that moment on, his dad texts him. And when his dad texts him asking him if he's home or not, he comes to the realization that he was supposed to get on that bus. So like he was such in a shock and daze that he doesn't even get on the bus, and it's perfect, like first love type of thing, and I absolutely eat that up. So we get to see Fuyuki on the bus, and Fuyuki is just, like mentally thinking about, hoping that he's in her class because she clearly has a crush on him as well. And so we get to school the next day, and he's sitting in the class, and and Shiki's just chilling, wondering if she's in the class or not. And he's kind of wondering if all other girls are that cool from Hokkaido, and looking around, not seeing her. But within 10 seconds, she walks in late to class, and she's freaking out because they sit right next to each other, and that she sees him. And the teacher's calling her out, but she doesn't even care. She just keeps on talking over him. He's coming to wonder if this kind of cliche thing happens all the time in life. And Shiki, I agree, it doesn't, but it is what it is, and we add that up to the total. And so within 10 seconds, she's calling him by his first name, right? Like not even knowing each other very long, first name call out. He freaks out because that's the kind of thing he does. And so while he's sitting there mentally thinking about how she's, calling him by his first name, breaking down boundaries, and he's getting more impressed by the second, comes to realize that he's freezing, and he doesn't really know why, because it's like an ice box in that classroom. But he looks around, and everybody's wearing blankets on their laps and has their jackets on. He has his jacket on, but no blanket on his lap, and he didn't bring one with him either. So of course, Fuyuki offers him one to wear, and it's because she usually wears 2 layers, and so he's wearing it, and he's enjoying it because it's so warm. And while he's thinking about it being warm, he's like thinking about the scent of her on this blanket, right? And while he's thinking about the scent of her on this blanket, he gets a scene of, like freaking out, like not freaking out necessarily, but just kind of like thinking about if it was her on his lap looking up at him, and getting this extremely high schooler thoughts. And while he's thinking about that, like he realizes that if his hormones take another swing like this, he's just screwed right off the bat, right? And so he's sitting in the classroom with his hand on his face and just making this really awkward look. And of course, she's like, this is the first time. I was at the bus stop yesterday. She's really, how do I put this? She's got to embrace him mentally thinking about all these things and observing it and seeing what he looks like while he thinks about all this stuff. So it's pretty great. And so he gives her blanket back, and she just instantly like smells it, right? she's one of us, smells the blanket, and like he's offering to clean it and everything, but she's like, no, it smells like you and me smushed together, and she's just like going all up on that. And I think that just blew his mind completely, let's be honest here. But, to pay her back for borrowing the blanket, she says that you should walk with me to the train station. So they're linked arm in arm, going to the train station, and she's kind of wondering because she calls it a locomotive, and train, locomotive, same, but he's like calling her kind of weird for it, but that's what she says, that's her thing. And so she kind of asks him while going on this walk a little bit more about Tokyo, and asking where people go on dates and stuff, and he says Harajuku, and a couple other locations, and what people do, they go get snacks and walk around, and so she gets the reference of like all these things, but of course he can't really give too much of a reference because he's never been on a date, because we found out he's not popular. So she's talking about what they do here, and of course all they really do is, because it's too cold outside, they go to each other's houses and visit, right? Which at the same point, believable, but at the same time, ployable? Who's to say? But before they can leave, she turns around and asks if he wants to come over to her house tomorrow, and gives the nice little hand heart, you know. And he says yes, right? Like right off the bat, even though he's like, oh my gosh, freaking out internally and thinking about what the heck this is turning into. But before you can like really answer and say yes, she's kind of getting really sad and asking if he does want to come over, because with that kind of reaction, we get this like manly yes, definitive yes I do, while he's got the stars and shining everything behind him. And like, we go to the next day after school, and he's there, and he's at her apartment, and he's like, I've never been to a girl's house. My family's probably gonna be pissed about this if they find out, but who gives a shit, right? And we get the the title card again, Hokkaido girls are forced to be reckoned with. And so he knocks, or rings the bell to get into the door, and she tells him, the door is unlocked, you can just come in. While obviously in Tokyo, that'd be like a thing, like, why don't you have your doors locked, with the security and everything. But he walks right in, she's wearing this like tracksuit gym outfit, and she tells him right off the bat, you're lucky my parents are gone today, which of course his mind goes straight to the gutter, which obviously most people would assume that in this instance. But we get in, shows the living room, and it looks like a pretty average casual living room, looks really nice. And he gets there and he sees the rug, and he instantly realizes how warm it is. And she explains to him that the floor has heating, and there's also a big heater in there. And in her room, she only has a small heater, and that's why, obviously, they're lucky that they got to sit in the living room because of the heat, not with their parents gone. You know what I mean? So, like, no awkward moments need to happen. Yet. So, he doesn't think anything weird's gonna happen in the living room, because why would it happen in the living room? And within 10 seconds, she puts her foot right on his like calf thigh, and she's wearing barefoot, nails match the hands, of course. And within 10 seconds he goes like, ah, and freaks out, and she gets this huge kick out of it, right? And with right after that, asking what they're gonna do today, and he's like, he doesn't really know, but before he can answer that, she gets him a glass of katsugan, and he takes a drink of it, and he realizes, it tastes like a thick vanilla yogurt. And while he's enjoying that, and she's telling about how she liked it since she was a child, she makes like a scream out there, and he's wondering what's going on. Well, what happened was she went to pour herself the rest of the glass and tipped it up to, get the rest out, but of course it spilt all over her. And of course we get a still shot of that, and it's just the white clumpiness all over her chest. So like, we get the degen shots so hard, right? And then of course he's embarrassed in the living room, as he always is, calm himself down so he doesn't go too far. But before anything else can happen, and she goes and changes, she comes out in like these like bedtime shorts and this tank top, pink. They're both like a nice hot pink, and she's got this smile on her face, and you get armpits, and she's putting her hair up, and she's she comes out and just says, I didn't really know what to pick, because this is what I usually wear my casual. But of course he calls her the advent of the Demon King, with this nice like sucked face, draining of the soul, just too much to handle. But he deters it away because he brought this film and he hasn't watched it yet. So she goes to set it up, and of course when she goes to set it up in this attire, she bends over to get it to start, and you could see the booty and everything in it, all its glory. And she's like, it's all ready to go, and he's over there just dying, because I mean, like, he's just, there's so much in this episode to just unpack with your mind, as just a degenerate does. So he's watching the movie with her, and it's this like sex scene in the movie going on, and within like seconds, he's not even looking at her, but he's just moaning, and he's moaning in the background, and he's curious now if she's like watching this and touching herself, and he's gonna like just kind of turn over to see exactly what she's doing. And He's like, if it just keeps going, he's just gonna freak the fuck out. And before he can freak the fuck out, she touches him with her foot again. And he goes to look over and sees that she's actually just passed out on the couch having a dream about eating. From what it sounds like, she says she doesn't want anymore. She's already full. And so, he gets this mental thought about how maybe she doesn't see him as he thinks she sees him, and she trusts him while she's sleeping, even though that should just be, what people do in general. But, he thinks he's friend zoned, which is totally, absolutely not the case. He's just an idiot, and any normal person could see the signs here. But he's getting ready to pack up because she's been sleeping through the whole film, and she wakes up with his jacket on her because he thought that she'd look kind of cold, just chilling there, just being a considerate dude, and, offers to, leave the Blu-ray for her to watch at a later time and just give it back whenever she's got the time. And, he's getting up, getting ready to go. It's dark out, and he gets outside, and within 10 seconds, Fuyuki's running outside, and she puts some boots on and just a light jacket and tells him, she didn't realize she fell asleep. She didn't want to fall asleep, and how much it sucks, and she feels so bad about it. And the fact that, before she, can even ask him to hang out again and, actually get closer with him, he's wrapping a scarf around her because he's telling her she's going to catch a cold, and she blushes up hard, and she's warm and smelling it, and it's absolutely just so adorable. And so she tells him, before he can even go, that she's hungry and that they should hit the Psycho Mart or Seiko. And so we get the credits roll, and right before the credits roll, there is one still shot I want to talk about where she's guiding him by the hand in her pajamas and a jacket with a scarf on, going to the market, and that pretty much caps the main part of the episode. And then we get to this after credits where they're out there eating, chicken and salmon sandwiches and rice, and just sitting outside of the market, and they're both just really loving it. And the highlight of the episode is he gets a little, the classic rice on the cheek. She picks it off, calls him a little baby, and then puts it in her mouth. And he literally gets so red that his light pink, red cheeks steam pouring off. And that's the complete end of the episode. Episode 1, I have to say, is pretty dang good for this rom-com of the season, and I am just loving it to death. I am more impressed, like I said, than I thought I would be, especially with the fact that you kind of just walk into these blindly, not knowing what you're going to get into. And so far, Fuyuki and Chiki are pretty great characters, and looking at the cast list, we still got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other characters to meet that look like classmates, probably parent, but we'll see how that goes, because you never know. I'm excited for this, and I think this is gonna be one I'm gonna enjoy covering a lot this season, and I'm glad to be back. Hope y'all enjoyed this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like. It really means a lot to me. And hit that subscribe button if you enjoy this kind of content. I'm doing this season, and then I am also doing another one, which we'll see how that goes. I'm pretty excited for it. That series is going to be The Witch and the Beast. So obviously that one uploads on Friday, so I will have that video up coming Friday. And then also this Thursday, I will be doing episodes 1 and 2 review of The Changed Soldier with Alex, and getting a Squid Tales episode of Orange out as well. So hope y'all look forward to that. I am back in full action. This has been Squids, and I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.